Going on, y'all, man? I go by the name of Q Pham. I'm running a couple podcasts right now, Shooting Stars and Interview with G. You can check out some of my music at Q Pham. Search me up on YouTube or IG.
Welcome to The Vietnamese. I'm your host, Kenneth Nguyen. Being part of a culture of nearly 100 million Vietnamese people in the world today comes with a lot of pain, proud history, and privilege. Join me as I highlight and explore the Vietnamese experience from all over.
You know, you look young. I don't know how young or how old you are, and I don't know like what time period you ran. But let's start. With the where did you grow up and how did you get into the rap game?
I grew up in San Diego, California. Um, I got in the rap game because I've always loved music. The first album I ever bought was East 1999 by Bone Thugs and Harmony. And then Asian rap started coming out. I started hearing it, and I was like, bro, I feel like I could do this, and we have more to say and to show. So that's why I did it.
What year was that when you started to kind of think about like I could do this?
I mean, I already thought about it in about what 1998, 97, but I didn't start till around like 2002 when I actually had a computer. Because before that, we was recording on like cassette tapes, karaoke systems, and stuff like that. Or on the radio, I would use a cassette tape, record whatever, and then I'll come back, practice it, and then later on, I would find the instrumental and try to do my own style. But I did all that in 1990, like 6 to 7 to 8, 99, but I didn't really record and put it out to the public till like 2002 or 3.
Well, how old were you then when you kind of in 96, 97 when you had the idea to do it?
Shoot, man, I was like, honestly, when I fell in love with music was when I was probably like 5 or 6 or 7. When I heard All for One, I Swear, when it
Yeah, yeah.
first came out. Yeah, yeah. And then I was like, man, maybe I want to sing. Like, I just feel some type of emotion when I hear this. I want to sing just like them and bring that same emotion. But then, I realized I couldn't sing as good. And then I got introduced to rapping. I started hearing Bone Thugs. That was like the first thing that I heard because it was All for One, I Swear, on the MTV countdown. It was number one. Boys to Men was number two. Number three was Bone Thugs and Harmony. I was like, wow, I want to be like them.
And how old were you at the time?
I would say in 98, I was probably what, 10, 10 or something like that.
Yeah. And who were the Asian rappers at that time, or were there any?
There was none. And then the first one that popped out after all that was probably Kanya. And then I heard Got Rice by some Asian rappers. And then I heard Vietnamese Gang in around 2000, 2001.
And how did you at that time get a hold of the Vietnamese rappers?
I didn't. I was just doing it. I was just recording it on my computer off of like a cheap mic. Like,
Oh, I'm sorry. My question was how did you get exposed to the Vietnamese rappers? Like
oh
the
yeah, so then I started just recording by myself, and then I showed like my school friends, and then they started this website called asianraps.com and bitrapper.com around that time. So that's how I was getting it out there on there.
but how did you like get exposed to Kanya or
Oh, on Napster. I don't know how, but we used to download music and stuff on Napster, LimeWire. That's where we got all those Asian got rice raps, Vietnamese gang, Kanya. So I don't know, my cousins or my brothers or something, they came across it because they were older. They're older than me. They were like, the teens in high school. And I was like young. I was like 10, 11, 12 type
yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
So somehow they got across it, and then I heard it, and I was like, "Wow, like, yo, where is this?" And then I got introduced to Napster. I started searching stuff like, "Hey, I want to use Dr. Dre's beat," so I started searching Dr. Dre's beat. Like that's how I got my access to music back then.
Can you imagine how far the Vietnamese rap game has come since those days?
Oh yeah, it's come a long way. But like some of the people like Kanya and Ty back then, they were ahead of their time. Like right now, it still sounds good. So imagine when I heard it back then, like it was like mind blowing to me, and I felt like, damn, I could do that. Like that's what I felt, you know.
What kind of life experiences do you think rappers need to have to put out some good lyrics?
Um, I would say is more on their imagination. Like when they hear, like, let's say All for One, I swear, I wasn't in love. I don't know what love is, but my imagination was crazy and my emotion was crazy. So I guess whoever has a good imagination or creative or has, that type of speech that makes people relate to it or feel it, those are the type of people that would make good music. And that's what I feel. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't I wouldn't I wasn't expecting that answer. I was thinking more like, you have to live a hard life. You gotta like, be
That
doing
too,
drugs.
that too. Those people will probably have more to say, but I mean, the other people will have stuff to say too. They feel sad, happy. They're humans too.
Mhm.
So I think it's more about emotion and expressions. Like they could have a bad day. They could be rich or whatever, but have a bad day. Like that might bring out that emotion to that song that he's gonna work on later. So, I feel like it's all emotion and expression. But the people that go through the hard stuff, they probably have crazier stuff to say.
Yeah, because I mean, don't you think authenticity in having a hard life shows up in the lyrics that you write?
Yeah, exactly. So when I do those type of music, I mean, it comes out naturally. I don't try to do it, but that's just how I feel, and it comes out like that. It comes out more natural, and I feel like the stuff I say, it might be deeper than a lot of other people that's not living that life.
Yeah, because when I hear, obviously Tupac or Biggie, when you hear these
Oh yeah,
rappers
yeah,
who
yeah, yeah.
lived it, you could feel the authenticity.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
when you hear like, let's say, who's that guy? Gucci product. Hey, who's that guy?
Mhm.
Lil Pump. So when you hear like Lil Pump, see, I can't feel it. Like
Right.
I have that feeling, emotion to it, No disrespect to him. But like, when I hear Tupac or when I hear Nipsey or when I hear Kendrick, I just feel a different way. Like, and I imagine it differently, like, oh damn, that's what I went through, or I felt that, I thought about that type of thing. But when I hear like Lil Pump, I just can't do it, man. Like you need that authenticity, like you said, and it's just better that way. Just keep it real with yourself.
Yeah. But damn, when you bring up a name like Kendrick Lamar, I can't help but to think that when you as a rapper or me as a podcaster or whenever we're at our level and we think about like the level of a Kendrick, right? Does it ever depress you to go like, because Kendrick is borderline genius, right? When you analyze his lyrics and his beats and everything like that, does that ever go like in your mind, like how long or what must I do to get to that level?
I feel like some people they have that talent already, skill set. They might have that connection to get them there faster. But really, I think like it's really his skill that brought him there.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we're getting started now, like the Vietnamese and the Asians. Eventually, it's probably gonna get there, but we also have that talent and drive too. And just because we're not being recognized or noticed or on the radio, we don't stop. We're gonna keep going. Like that wasn't my goal, just to stop right when I get on the radio or someone hears me. Like it'll be my goal to still play on the radio, but I'm not gonna stop just because I don't, because I know I can still help a lot of people with the stuff I say too. And that's what keeps me going more. Like when I hear people listen to my stuff or when I go to the show, they know my lyrics. That's what keeps me going. Like I don't think about, okay, I'm gonna try to make the song to get on the radio, or I'm trying to, like, that's not how I think. So that's how I keep going and making music.
Yeah. So from
Yeah.
2005 to today, that's like, I don't know, 18 years or something like that. You know, in those 18 years or so, how hard do you think you've gone? Like, and I ask this because I think in an artist's life, like as a writer, a rapper, a filmmaker, we have these periods that we go up and down, we flow. There's years that we don't want to do the work, or we take the foot off the pedal. Like in the last 18 years, would you say like you went hard every year and you kept it consistent, or was it like you had good years and bad years?
Um, it was probably a little bit of both, like life could hit me sometimes because to make music, it takes a lot of time and money from you. And if you can't make money, you don't have money coming in, to pay for your music is kind of hard sometimes. So I went through a lot of that. Like I couldn't afford no music video. I couldn't afford like studio time all the time. Uh so it was a lot of in and out for me. And then, I got locked up. I went hard for like the last 3 years before I got locked up. And then I got locked up for 3 years. And it took away a lot of my momentum when I came back out. So I was in and out a lot. Situations like, financial situations, family problems, problems with the law. Like there was a lot more in life that was hitting me than just music, but I loved it so much that I just kept doing it, you know, whenever I could, whenever I got the chance.
Can we talk about your life in and out? Is that something that you're comfortable with
Yeah, it's
talking
over
about?
with. I mean, I already did my time for it, I'm not too worried about it.
So when you're into music and you're inspired and you're passionate about writing, what makes you go off the beaten path and break laws and stuff like that in conjunction with, like, because you're pursuing something greater than
Mhm.
yourself, arguably? What makes you go, well, I'm on this path and I'm like doing good with it, and then but then here's the law and you got to break the law? Like, what's going on in your mind that you have to, it's almost like, to me it's like two separate lives, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, because like I was saying, like, I love the music. It's free, like for me to write the music, but when I want to record it or put it out or press CDs, I need money. I didn't have a job. My family's not rich. So what could I do? And I couldn't really get a job. So the best way for me was, making fast money. And that's how I provided my music. Without the money, there would be no music. Like I wouldn't be content making money, making music while being broke. Like, how am I gonna pay for my gas that day? How am I gonna pay for my food? Like, my
Studio
mindset has to be right to in order to make good music. Like, I can't do it while I'm in debt 5,000. I'm like, I can't do music like that. So, in order for me to do it, I have to make that fast money to continue doing it. That's why I chose to do it like that before.
got it. So that makes sense. So it really falls in line with your goals, right? I mean, it's like
And my
breaking the
family is
law.
poor. Like I ain't gonna lie, like my family is poor. They can't just, hey, here's money, I'm a studio time. Like, no, I pretty much had to hustle my way to get that shirt I wanted pretty much. Like they could get whatever they could, but I wanted more. So I was like, look, I can make fast money by myself. So I just did that. And at the same time, that helped me make more music. And my mind was right. Okay, I have money coming in, I have females, I have, weed. Okay, everything is right. Boom, now is the time. Boom, boom. So that's how I did it. Then that's why I did it, because I needed money in order to keep up with my dreams.
But looking back, would you have done it differently?
Yeah, I would have done it
How
different
would you have done it differently? Because I mean, what you're saying is like that was the quickest route to getting where you need to go today. So
at that
what?
time.
Yeah, what would you do differently?
Now I would either find investors, lay low for like, a year of just working a 9 to 5 and save money and save creativity and save and boom and let it all out. Um, I didn't have to rush it where, oh, I need money. Okay, now I need money. I need music. I need money. Like I was kind of rushing it without having a plan, not knowing where I was going or what I was doing. I was just doing it because, oh, people like the song. I just put it out. People like, I need to drop another one. I need to drop another one. Like that was my mentality back then. But now, like I would really, if I was really serious and had that skill set, I might be reaching out to investors, sponsors, working 9 to 5 to save my own stash to do it. There's a lot of different ways that I would do it now. So that's why I created these platforms, because back then I didn't have people to tell me, hey, don't do this. Like, don't drop this. Like, that's crazy. It's hella like, political or, controversial. Don't do that. Like, don't go that route. Like, so that's why I make like Shooting Stars as a platform for me to bring up upcoming artists to give them more exposure and a platform. So I want like all the new artists to hit this platform and everybody's gonna know like, okay, these are the new artists. Boom, boom. Who's new? Who's hot? Who's new? Who's hot? So I'm trying to do these podcasts to help do that because I know what I went through, and so I'm trying to do what I can to make it a little bit easier for them.
The business of podcasts is one of my favorite things to talk about, and we're going to get to that. And if I forget because we get into another interesting angle, remind me to come back to the podcast conversation because that's fascinating to me. I'm a big supporter, obviously, of anybody who is on that path to podcasting. It's a hard grind, but I think it's a very worthwhile pursuit.
Yeah, definitely.
So before we get into that, I want to know though, you say like, yeah, you could do it differently, but time in prison is actually a very interesting thing that can happen to a man, a young man. And
Yeah.
it adds like layers to your music and to your life and all the experiences. Can you talk a little bit about the time that you were in and the experiences you had with perhaps other Vietnamese guys in there?
There was a lot that I had to learn when I got in there.
Like what?
It's a whole different world in there, different rules, different regulations. There's rules from the police, there's rules from the inmates, and all of it is applied. Like, I can't just go work out on this bench at this time because at that time the blacks use it or the whites use it or the Mexicans use it. There was stuff like that that I had to learn. I couldn't just cut when it was chow time, which is like lunchtime or dinner. I can't just cross through their table, boom, and get my food. I would have to walk all the way around. You can't cross through other races' tables at all. Um, and there was little stuff like that that I had to learn, like so many of those stuff that I had to learn. It was basically the main thing that I learned was pretty much respect and mind your own business. That was the two biggest thing that I've learned.
Wow. But
Yeah.
when I think about that, there's I mean, it's a way of really growing up and leveling up in a very different weird way, right? Like you come out of there and you definitely are not the same young man that you were when you came in. And there's really it's fucked up, but there's advantages to that kind of, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, today I still feel like I'm learning every day, but of course, when I went in there, it changed me a lot. Like because all we had was our words. We didn't have not even a boxer. Like just imagine that, like just naked, no boxers. All you had, no money. All you had was your words. So if you couldn't keep your words in there, it's a very big problem. Like
Wow.
it's the biggest problem right there. And then it comes to the money. You have family sending money, people owe you money because they don't have soup or something, right? And I loan you two soup. You say you're gonna pay me back next week, but you don't. That's a big issue. Like when it comes down to your words and money in there, that's like the biggest thing that caused all these riots and race wars in there. So
Yeah.
it,
And yeah,
it
I like
leveled
I
me up. It leveled me up a lot. Like I've
that's what I'm
learned.
saying. Yeah, and I don't want to glorify it because obviously it's a fucked up thing to get locked up. And
And I don't wish anybody to go prison, but
yeah,
whoever went in there, they learned a lot from in there. So yeah, for sure, it leveled me up though.
yeah, because out here it's the same thing. If you think about it, your word in business is just the only thing you got. It's
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah, but nowadays social media, they pretend to do this to make it look like that, So it's total opposite out here for me. Yeah, it's
Mm.
different. Like a lot of people be like, oh, I'll meet at this time, and then they'll cancel, or like those little stuff right there is the biggest thing in prison. Yeah.
And it's big out here too, because that is really what separates, the kids from the grown-ups.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. But then it's like it's not people's not being penalized out here though, but people in there is being penalized. So
Yeah.
that's the only difference. Yeah.
And what's the Vietnamese culture like inside of prison?
Man, it's crazy, bro. Like if you meet there's not gonna be much Vietnamese that you meet in there, but any Vietnamese you meet in there, he's doing 10, 20 life. And it's crazy. It's like when I did my 3 years, I felt like, Mickey Mouse compared to all the other people, And there was so much knowledge, so much that they got in them. And it's crazy that they had to be stuck in there. I wish that they could be out here to share that same knowledge. And so I just try to help push what I can, what I've learned, what I could help with the upcoming artists. Like I try to push it all in there.
Wow. And these older guys that were in for all these years with the knowledge, how close could you get to them?
You hang out with them every day, all day, pretty much. That's how conversate with them. I kind of learn from them, learn how they think, learn how they talk. They're really intelligent. Some people, they came from Vietnam, straight from Vietnam, right? They did a crime, went straight to prison. Like I'm talking about, he spent a month out in America. He went to prison like my cellmate. He went to prison for 22 years straight from Vietnam. He came over here when he was 14 for 2 months. He went to prison for 22 years. And that's how he learned his English. So when he spoke to me in English, I'm like, how the hell you know English? He's
Holy
like, bro,
sh!
he learned everything in there. So he talked with slang though, like street talk. That's how he talks. And I'm like, where did you learn that? He's like, I learned everything in here because I only had 2 months out there. Like everything that I know or seen is in prison. I'm
Oh
like,
my God.
but he was so smart though. Like it was crazy.
Is he still in?
Now he just got out. He owns his own trucking business now. So I really look up to him. I see him as my big brother. Shout out to Long. Like I learned so much from him. Now he's out here. He has a family. He has a trucking company. He's a hard worker. But he was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. And he lost like 22 to 24 years of his life, you know. So it was crazy.
Wow, what a fascinating story.
But every Vietnamese you meet is pretty much going to be their own story like that, though. It's crazy. And they're doing a long, long time. Like Vietnamese or Asians don't come in there for no petty crime. When we come in there, it's for something, and it's going to be like a big, big stretch.
And did you find that you had a lot of time in prison to write lyrics or to work on music at all?
I did, but in the beginning, I didn't care about it. Like I was, worried about doing my time. I was worried about like, fuck, like I fucked up, my life is fucked up. I had all this music momentum, and now what? I'm in the fucking cell counting the days, counting the clock. It was a messed up situation. But but yeah, man. Yeah, that's what
Okay. Now, what is the end goal for the music that you are pursuing? Like what's your vision, overall vision for your music life?
like I never thought about this when I started. Like I told you, I didn't have a plan. Like I just wanted to do it because I wanted to tell our story. I wanted to let out our sound, see our swag type of thing. But really right now, man, my end goal is pretty much like to get the newer generation to help guide them, help give them exposure, help lead them the right way. Be proud of your culture. Like before, I could speak Vietnamese, but I never rapped in Vietnamese and English. Or like I probably did in one song, but I never like really focused on it like that because I always thought, people might think it's funny, it might be lame, it's not cool. But now, like my goal is to only push Vietnamese English music, and just to show the younger generation, hey, we can make it sound cool. Watch, I'm gonna make it sound cool. So my end goal to all this is probably I want to turn all this to like a radio station. I want to have the top 10 countdown. I want to help artists. I want to tell stories from our parents. What was their experience? So that's like my end goal pretty much with all the music.
It's crazy that you could be driving and up in LA, the mainstream station is Kiss FM 102.7. I can't tell you how much Korean music in Korean is being played on the airwaves. It's the most crazy thing. And I know like in the next few years, we are next. Like I know that Vietnamese music, somebody out there is gonna break through and some hit song with Snoop or with some mainstream person is going to have a Vietnamese rapper rapping in Vietnamese. And I cannot wait to that day.
Most definitely. Right now is the time. Once Vietnam accepted rapping, it was a whole new ball game for us. It was like a rebirth for me in this music game. And I feel like, man,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm ready. Like I've been ready for this day. I've been waiting for this day and it's happening. So, I do everything I can right now to push that movement.
Yeah. It's like once Ty got back to Vietnam and did the rap Viet, it just seems like from that moment on, everything turned. It like, it was like,
Worked
it's
with us, man. It gave us a whole new life, man. Like
really.
that's what it did do.
You ever talk to Ty about that?
I haven't got a chance. He's been really busy, so I haven't really got a chance to talk to him. But I'm pretty sure all of us, all of our mind state is pretty much on the same page. Like we see this movement coming strong, and we're going all out on it. Everybody, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Uh, Ty to me to Dub P, everybody's going all in on this right now. And we don't even like talk to each other every day, but I'm pretty sure that's what we all think, and that's what we're all on right now.
And there's like a lot of different sort of niche, a lot of different pockets of Viet rap in America, right? Because you got the old school guys like Ty, and then you also have like Bay Area guys like Antonius Maximus,
Mhm.
and you in San Diego. How bonded are you guys? How like connected and how supportive are you guys with each other?
Like we might not met each other yet. Some of the people that you named, we might, but I've heard of them. I support this movement 1000%. I like the unity that's coming now. Before it wasn't really like that. Before it was pretty much you do your own thing, I do
Yeah.
my own thing. But now it's like, okay, let's do the show together. Let's do a song together. So right now, the way it's going, and it's gonna get even better. But the way it's going right now, like I love it, man. And I want to see it go even bigger though. And I support everything that we're doing right now.
Have you been to Vietnam?
Yes, so I went to Vietnam my first time because I told you I got out of prison. I was on probation for another 10 years after that. So I couldn't leave nowhere. So I finally got off of probation 2000 like 18 or 19. So that was the first time I went to Vietnam. I made that was, when I went over there, they didn't start rap bit yet, right? They started like 2 years after I left, or a year or 1 year right after I left. So I came over there. I was pushing the issue, like, hey, let me get a song with you. Hey, how come you don't collab with this guy? It was different before rap bit in
Yeah.
Vietnam too.
Yep. Yep.
Even though it's just like a couple years, it was different. Like this guy was like, nah, I'm from the South. I don't really, I do my own thing. He do his own thing or whatever, 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 right? But now I see it like, they're coming together, have the rap bit show. I'm like, see, like that's what we need, bro. Like we need to come together in order to be stronger. The more voices we have, the better.
The variety of human beings in the rap game in the Vietnamese industry there's such a variation,
Yeah, yeah.
from the women rappers like Suboy to, like I said, the Bay Area rappers to East Coast rappers to you in San Diego, LA guys. It is so different. And now we're thinking of like North and South Vietnamese rappers. That
Yeah,
culture is so different. The way,
exactly.
the way
Exactly.
they
And they
rap, but
sound
they
so
rap.
good together right now. Like I hear some of the songs, there's a Bucky guy and then a Nam guy, they sound really good together. And that's what I like to see, like
Who,
different types of sounds.
who are your favorites?
Right now, I just grew on to Benzie, Andre Right Hand, uh, before that, I was listening to like Big Daddy. When I went to Vietnam in 2018, 2019, I was listening to Big Daddy, Pinboy, Win James. Um, there's so many of them. Wowie, I have a song with Wowie. Um, there's so many of them, bro. Like they're good. MC High. Yeah, everybody that I mess with, man. Even I forgot to mention you, bro. Like as all love, like I fuck with all of them.
And when do you ever envision you being part of that rap scene in Vietnam, living there? Do you ever see it?
I envisioned it in 2018, 2019. That's why I went. I was like, man, how come nobody is really pushing this issue right now? Like I know Vietnamese, I hear Vietnamese rappers, they're getting millions of views even at that time when I went. So I was like, man, we need to push this issue where we collaborate the United States with, you know,
Yeah.
so that's why I went over there and I did a couple songs. I did a song with Wowie. I did a music video with Win James and Pinboy. They was really big at that time when I went. Their song was called Wang Tao Ke Bong, and they had like 160 million views. And then I was like, wow, how can I reach out to these guys? How can I make music with these guys? And I pretty much just reached out to them, and they're all so humbled and cool, man. Like they just welcome me. And I tried to rap a couple lines in Viet. I did most in English, a couple lines in Viet. It was like a Vietnamese reggae song. Man, it was so dope, bro. But now it's like I'm really pushing that issue where I'm doing Vietnamese and English every song.
Wow, it's so heartwarming to hear this, that collaboration because when music and arts and creativity is involved, all the political lines, you throw that shit out the window for a minute, and just focus on what's the quality of the moment, right?
I mean, if that's what they want to chase, the music, the rap, it comes down to unity at the end of the day. It's competition, but we have to come together in order to make a bigger movement so people could notice us.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect segue into the podcast that you started. So what made you decide to get into that? How were your first steps in getting into the podcast game?
Because I was like, how come there's no podcasts out there really that's bringing up or helping out the Asian like rappers, and we're not on the radio. We can't just go on No Jumper, we can't go on Vlad. They only pick and choose who they want. So I was like, I want to bring out more stories from our side and tell the side of the rappers, because you only know their lyrics and their music, right? You don't know what they eat or who's their top five rappers.
Absolutely.
You don't know none of that. So that's why I was like, okay, it's a really good time since Asia accepted rap. So I was like, okay, it's probably a good time to bring out these stories and share more with the world. So that's why I was like, I gotta do this. Like I feel like I'm meant to do this.
What's the name of the podcast?
So I have two. One is Shooting Stars. Pretty much I bring up upcoming artists, ask them a few questions like where they from, how long they've been doing music, what's their stage name, and then at the end of the show, they showcase their talent. And then I have another one called Interview with G, like
Oh,
INNERVIEW.
that's cool.
Interview.
Love
The
it.
So basically, these are like for more like our parents, our famous tattoo artists, our famous musicians. Like they kind of have a fan base, a name already. And so then when they tell their story, it's like, okay, I know who that is. I want to hear more. But the upcoming artists, they need to that exposure because you don't know who they are. You're probably not gonna want to know what they eat and or all that. So I want them to showcase their talent more on that platform. And on this platform, I want to tell more stories.
How long have you been doing them?
I just started, bro, to be honest. I just started for like a couple months. I had to learn the ropes, the system, how to really they think it's just you put up the camera and it's hell nah. You have to do so much behind it. And I had to learn all that. And I'm still learning it. So I'm just trying to get better and push that issue too.
Yeah, when you think about it, there's like 10 different, if you thought of it like 10 different departments, right? You got to be good at all 10 of them to make the
It was
shit
crazy.
move.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You
because there's
the light, the microphone, the sound, everything to be right. It's not just you put up the fucking camera and it's done. Like, nah, it don't work like that.
exactly, there's so much intricacies. And then you got to do like, you got to research about the guests, you got to do all this stuff to get,
Exactly.
and even then it's like hard to get eyeballs, out onto the podcast or ears on it.
But one thing I do know is, I'm willing to put in that extra work. At the end of the day, at the end of the day, I feel, good about doing it, I feel like I'm doing something good and I feel good pushing it. It costs a lot of money too to do like podcast stuff.
So sorry, I don't know what this is. You there? Sorry.
Someone's trying to call you, man.
Yeah, that's like 4 times. Crazy. But my phone is like on silent. I think it's coming in from
Computer?
FaceTime on my MacBook Pro. I've never seen this before.
Oh, okay. It's all good.
Wow. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, it takes a lot to really do the podcast, behind it. It also costs a lot of money too. You need cameras, you need soundboards, you need lighting, you need a space. Uh yeah, so I mean, I'm willing to do it though. At the end of the day, I feel good doing it. So I'm
Yeah.
willing to put in that extra work and invest into it.
Yeah. And I want to talk about this because I want other people in the audience to hear. I hope that whoever's listening to this particular podcast that they're inspired because I think this is like such a obviously a big part of my life. And now that I know that it's a big part of your life and you just started, I want to really dig into the kind of the mechanical side of like the emotional side of doing this. So first of all, I'll start with the advantages of how wonderful the byproduct of actually doing the work is. So first of all, you get the information and the knowledge, right? Like you just start to become a lot more, I don't know if it's more intelligent, but you just become a lot more sensitive to people's like problems or their good fortunes. You're just more sensitive to it. But even more importantly than that, you develop this like deep sense of humanity and realize how fucked up you are, right? How far behind you are in the world of mental development, emotional development, and it allows you to kind of work on developing yourself to become a better person. You're like, whoa, I never thought of that. I never thought of this. And that's like the advantages. And then the other side, the good byproduct is also all of a sudden you find yourself in the middle of this community that you thought was like just the rap game or the entertainment game, but it slowly becomes more expansive. And I think that those two things I hope will drive you to never ever stop doing the podcast.
Yeah, eventually I want to like, interview like successful business owners, millionaires. I want to do a lot to motivate, the newer generation or, teach them some knowledge about business or whatever they're getting into music. I could be interviewing a rapper. He'll tell his experience about music. I could be interviewing a real estate mogul, like so yeah, I do think that far where eventually I want to reach out to those type of people too. Yeah, so definitely.
Well, when you're ready, let me know and I'll make some introductions.
Okay, hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because, I want to be on your show. I want you to have like 2 or 3 other podcasters that are growing, and I want to be on their show
For sure.
because we have a network effect when we do this work, right? You ask me a question, I ask you questions on my show, your show. We get to learn from each other. We get to hear each other's stories. And then we get to be exposed to each other's audiences, right? Because your audience is very different from my audiences. And now my audiences get to know who you are. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's the important thing about like amplifying our voices is the more podcasters we have. This is very different from any game, I think, like business or, maybe even the rap game. The rap game, you want all eyeballs on you, right? But with the podcasting game, the more homies you got, the better you're going to be because, the more shows that you could surf on, the better exposure and more knowledge you start to pick up. So I'm always preaching this network effect with podcasters.
Okay. How long you been doing the podcast?
This is my 4th year.
The fourth
It's
year.
my
Wow.
4th year. Feel free to ask me anything you want about it, even right now. Like we can.
How many episodes have you done already?
I probably recorded 400.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 400. But released, maybe I'm at 341, I think right now. I'm at 341, but I've recorded a lot. And, sometimes it Some recordings are not, for one reason or another, just not appropriate to release at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's that, there's that happening. But for the most part, I do release everything I record. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Do you run everything yourself, or do you have like people in the back end helping you?
I run everything myself except social media because I suck at that. Yeah.
Oh,
But in terms of recording and setting up all, but I know what my deficiencies are. I need to improve this visual game. I need to crank up this visual side because I need to start bringing guests into my studio in Alhambra.
yeah,
And because the when you have good cameras, the visual quality and then being live in person with each other creates a different energy on camera and in conversation. It's just a different. So I have to, like, I don't know, I keep telling myself that I will do more of it and then make it mandatory for guests to come up. But I like the fact that I can do quantity. I could interview a lot of people through Zoom, but it's probably not the best. It's definitely not the best platform.
you have a cool setup though. I see your boom mic, everything right there. That's what's up.
Thank you. But I've done live ones and the energy is so different. I mean, you've done live. Do you do all yours live?
Like in person, yeah, but I don't go live streaming
Right,
yet.
right. In person, I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah,
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 because it's a different energy. You can feel it talking to me right now. Like I can't read your body expressions. I really can't like really get into everything. So it kind of limits it. But when we're like in person, I could read you a lot better. And then I could take risk and say shit that's like a little bit more edgy where I can't really read you and I don't know how you're gonna react at, through
yeah.
through the camera.
But you can say whatever, man. I'm open to whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I really hope you don't ever stop. And I tell everybody, even if you just do it for a year or 3 years, that footprint that you leave and the knowledge that you gain to become a better human being is still beneficial than not doing it at all.
Yep, yep, exactly. Yeah. I just try to do whatever I can. I'm really invested into it. And it's really like my goal right now is to push this. I feel good, like I was meant to do this type of
Yeah.
thing. So, that keeps me going.
Do you like it more than music?
I like both. Like when I drop a podcast, it's like I drop a song type of thing. Like I feel like that. Um, it might not like, the whole world view it, get a million views, but the message in there that I want to tell is there. So, as long as people watch it, and even if it can help one person, like that's all I want.
Absolutely. And where can we find your podcast?
Right now it's just on my YouTube, like my music YouTube, GEEQ PHAM. Right now it's on there, but I'm gonna eventually separate the shows, have people help me run the shows and
And
separate it.
do you have it on audio, like audio
Uh,
podcast?
I honestly, like, I only dropped two so far. I did one for Shooting Stars and one for interview so far, and I'm getting there where I'm gonna put it on Spotify and stuff like that. So right now I'm in the process of doing that.
Okay, cool. If you need help, please let me know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Is yours all on Spotify?
Yeah, I'm on Spotify and on YouTube.
Okay. Do you
But
do it through DistroKid, or how do you do it?
I have a platform that I've been using from the early days called Red Circle.
Uh-huh.
So Red Circle is a platform that you load it up once and then it shoots it out to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other podcasts. The video one is only living on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
But
So
if
you
you
have
want your
a page too.
say again,
You have a YouTube page too?
yeah, I have a YouTube page too.
Okay,
Yeah, I
cool.
have a YouTube page too. But again, the quality of the videos need to like be cranked up in order for people to stay engaged. And I haven't thought about like numbers, ever since I've started. I'm very concerned about the kind of guests that I get. If they're interesting to me, that's who I want. That I constantly want to be building up my guest list. And then at some point, lock in the quality, the visual quality when the money starts rolling in with the different sponsors and it's happening. It's starting to happen. But I think getting the reps in for me the interview reps have been the most important thing to do.
How long you think it took you to do podcasts to see like some type of results?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, what motivated you to keep going?
That's a good question. That's a podcasting question. I like that. You're a
Mhm.
podcaster.
I'm a podcaster, man.
You're a podcaster. I love it. What motivated me is the shame of being a Vietnamese man. I was
This,
very ashamed of being Vietnamese my entire life.
mm.
So I was dealing with that.
Were you born and raised here?
Yeah, I was. I was born in the East Coast. My parents moved us out when I was a year old to LA.
Uh,
And I've been living out in LA since I was like a year old. And growing up, I'd been to an all black school in my elementary years, and then an all Japanese school in middle school, and then high school was like half all white, and then I went to another school, it was like all Mexicans basically. And so I had never been part of like the Vietnamese community in that way, where I went to school with a lot of Vietnamese or any Vietnamese. And then I joined the Marines, and it was like all white guys, right? And so it was like I never felt proud to be Vietnamese. There was like, I wanted to be, but I just couldn't. For some reason, I just saw like the white man as the model that I wanted to become,
mm,
right? Because I saw these like badasses in the Marine Corps and all military. I've just so all my group of friends, we all like wanted to be that, and then so I live with that shame of going out and meeting women and just feeling really insecure about being Vietnamese, not being good enough. So I lived with that for many, many years. So that's why I started the podcast. So I can like find reasons. What does it mean to be Vietnamese? Why is it important to be understanding what makes our people so badass? And after all these years, I still ask the questions that I asked, but at the same time, I realize our story is a little different from like an El Salvadorian. Our story is a little different from like the Irish. It's a little different. But at the end of the day, what is the biggest thing for me, the biggest takeaway is we're all humans, and we need to not, for me, it's not necessarily to be proud to be Vietnamese. It's more of being in love with the little things that make us Vietnamese. That's
mm,
where I live now. I'm
yeah,
not proud to be Vietnamese. I am in love with the things that make us Vietnamese.
that makes
This,
sense. A good way.
this, the stories that have come up from the interviews, it's all human stories. Like people in Afghanistan are going through the shit. People in Gaza and Israel, everybody's going through what we went through. Some have gone through harder lives, but I have learned to grow to really love the little tidbits of Vietnamese culture throughout the world now.
Mm. Hey, shout out to Little Saigon since we're on the Vietnamese community,
Chris
man.
Tran,
I see you rocking their hoodie right there.
right here. Yep.
Yeah, shout out to Chris Tran, man.
Love that guy. Love
Uh,
that guy, man.
do you think it's important to carry on the Vietnamese culture to the new generation?
No, I think about that all the time. I don't know. I don't know because my mom tries to make me do it with my kids, and I'm like, here's the problem. Here's the problem with that. My father tried to do that with religion to me, and when I think back, like on how he raised me, and then how I'm living right now, is very similar. I'm doing the culture, he did religion, but it's the same like fucking hardcore. We go hard, right? My dad went really hard with religion, and I'm going really hard with culture. And I don't know at the end of the day if he went hard in religion because what demons drove him to go that hard with religion to try to become a good man. I know what drives me into, because you just asked me what kind of drove me. My shame drives me, and I'm aware of that. But what is driving my children to give a shit about being Vietnamese? Because they're half Taiwanese, half Vietnamese. So I don't know, man. I don't know if pushing culture on them is a healthy thing. I try to like put them in our eyes. I try to take them to festivals. I try to do the small things that are fun, but that deep desire to go and chase your culture or your religion or whatever, that comes from some weird place, man. And I don't know if artificially trying to inseminate them with this sort of like love for my culture is a healthy thing.
Mm, mm. I mean, there's different ways you could do it. It's just natural stuff that we do. Like let's say thud, or let's say, full moon. Let's say, like if we do those normal stuff, it's up to them for them to fall in love with it or not. I did though, like when I grew up, I was like, wow. But I was ashamed too. Like if I spoke Vietnamese with my mom in the grocery stores or something,
Yeah.
I would be kind of embarrassed, but I was really proud and in love with my culture, but I didn't know how to put it out in a way where Americans would be normalized,
Hmm.
you know. But eventually now I'm just like really proud and beyond all that. Like I don't care what they think,
Yeah, I'm the same way.
and I do the same thing. Like I don't force it on my daughter, but I just speak Vietnamese to her, or I
Oh
just
wow.
take her to temple. I do normal stuff, but I don't force it on her. I make her meet all of her relatives, and they speak Vietnamese. We play bingo for Tut. We do bao cua, and she's falling in love with the culture, on her own. And I'm just playing my part as a Vietnamese father, doing Vietnamese things, and that's how I fell in love with it. And I feel like she's probably gonna be the same too. And I'm
See,
not.
and I think that's the healthy approach, man, because if my dad just took me to church on Sundays and we like got to hang out with all the people at church, I think today I'd still be going to church. If he said to me, look, all that shit that's like all the stuff that you heard in church or the Bible, you read in the Bible, that shit is like, that might not be true. That
Yeah,
might be like Marvel movie shit, right? Marvel movies, Marvel Studios came up with all these superheroes to teach us lessons. And the
exactly.
Catholic Church could have been doing that to teach people lessons about like living. Had my dad gone about it that way, I think today I'd still be going to church because then I wouldn't be going like, is this shit real? It's not real. Like, who gives a shit if it's real or not? What's important is they're teaching you how to be a better person. And that and being in community is something I would have loved. And now I'm just like so scarred. I can't even step foot in the church.
You know how some Vietnamese people on Thut, they have that thinking whoever step in the house give good
Yeah,
luck. Bad luck. You don't know if that's real or not, but we still
we still do it.
obey to that. So it's like stuff like that. I don't think like it matters, but I still respect it enough
Same
to do
here.
it. Yeah, so it's like
I agree with that. That's such a funny thing. You sweep the house before that. All
yeah.
those things are not bad for you.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
Good
like
for
if you
you.
don't clean your house gonna be dirty for the
The
whole
rest
year.
of the whole year.
Like,
So
wow.
that tradition, the rituals, the ritualized traditions in the Catholic Church or Vietnamese culture, or Chinese culture, or whatever, are good for us. I think there's a lot of things that make a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah. But in real life, it's good to clean your house. It's good to
Exactly.
be home for New Year. Like those in reality is actually good for you if you actually like obey to it and don't think, oh, if it's real or not. It's actually, it organizes you. It
Totally.
gives you something to do for that. So I think it's a good thing. But I just bring it around, but I don't force it though.
Right, right, right. I mean, you should always be mindful of who steps in your house anyway, right? So that's a good thing that it's like, hey, it's the first of the year. We just need to be reminded. Don't bring in bad, negative people into the house.
Yeah,
Always
yeah.
keep it
Yeah, exactly. I mean, your tire could pop that day. I don't mean I don't believe that you're gonna be bad luck for the whole year just because your tire popped that day. Like anything could happen, but that's what our culture believes, and I just, and I still carry it on to this day. I don't know why, like stuff like that. I don't know if it's true or not, but I still, do it and respect it.
Yeah, I think that's a healthy way to do it. Yeah, yeah, and I'm like, if I get to 1,000 or 2,000 episodes before I die, if my kids want to know about Vietnamese culture, they're gonna have a full fucking record of like all the living badass Vietnamese people who existed during our lifetime. They can listen to it.
But you could tell though, like when a kid, he's interested or she's interested in something, they will ask you questions.
Totally.
Like when I was young, there was a lot of stuff that I asked my family, like why they do this, why they that. Not because, I was like a motor mouth or like, anything, because I really wanted to know, like, or why is it like this? But a lot of our parents, they don't like to tell their experience or like why this, why that. I like how much salt should I put in this? just put a little bit. But when I see them put it, it's not a little bit. I'm like, why you guys say it like that though? Like, that's crazy, you know?
Well, I have a not an answer. I have a response to that. And my response to that is, I think this is just my theory, is that language and culture have different stages of evolution. So I think like our parents' generation, they are kind of stuck in this sort of basic language mode, and we have developed a little bit more language. And then our kids are going to look at us like, damn, I can't get my dad to think this way, to communicate, because they have now more vocabulary. And I don't just mean words vocabulary, but I mean like thoughts. They have different ways of seeing things, different ways of being honest and vulnerable that we are not programmed with, just like our parents were not. So it's like this evolutionary sort of like evolution of culture, and within our families, the way we speak to each other. And I have now tried to kind of understand like my mom, and sometimes I fail at it, I lose it with my mom, but at the same time I do a little introspection after, and I think about their culture and their language is evolved to there, and it's hard to push them to get beyond it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So that's sort of like the way I look at it.
Do you speak Vietnamese?
I
Like,
do. I speak
you
fluent
speak?
Vietnamese. Yeah, I speak fluent Vietnamese, and I read and write, and I do a lot of translation work now, and I really get into the Vietnamese culture.
Okay, who do you usually speak Vietnamese to? Like your family or your
Just my
kid?
mom. Just my
Oh,
mom. Yeah,
oh,
just my mom. But then, I do a lot of community work now. So the older people that I work with, they speak only Vietnamese. So I gotta roll with that. And it's improved over the years.
yeah, yeah. I mean, shoot, my mom, my grandma and stuff, they don't even speak English, so there's no
You
other
have to speak
yeah, yeah.
in
So
Vietnamese. Yeah. And yeah, so that's sort of like where we are right now. But GQ, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And I look forward to tracking your work, especially now in the podcast world. And I do hope one day to come onto your podcast and share even more with you.
you're welcome anytime when you're in San Diego. We could do a podcast at my podcast place. Anytime you want, if you're in San Diego.
Okay.
Also,
We'll be
I could go mobile too. Like if ever I'm in OC and you would like to link up, we could do a
we could do that.
podcast live too. Yeah. Uh,
Okay.
there's
Yeah,
also Little Saigon's podcast. You know, so there's a lot where we could still link up.
this is a brand new day for us. Like Chris, yeah, his work over Louis Saigon, you now, we all got podcasts, and we have we're at the controls. We're in the cockpit now. We can fly the planes. We
Yeah.
we are doing our thing, and I think it's a very exciting time in the Vietnamese media space.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Definitely appreciate you for having me on here, sharing some of your experiences and stories too. I really appreciate that.
It's my pleasure, man.
Yeah, I hope to see you again real soon though, for sure.
Will do. Yep, for
Let's
sure.
let's do one in person next time. I think it'll be a lot better too, because you
Yeah,
get to see my body language. You
we'll
kind of
schedule
talk.
it right after we get off episode. Yep.
All right, man.
All right, brother.
Thank you for listening to The Vietnamese with Kenneth Nguyen. Special thanks to Brittany Tran, to Jane Nguyen, Catherine Nguyen, Tina Pham, Sydney Jamie, and Christo Trin. Please find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at The Vietnamese Podcast.